Okay, so I've been using the AirPods Pro for the last couple of months now, and recently my workmates have asked me for my opinions on them. It just so happens that I've been wanting to do a comparison between these and these, the Sony WF-1000XM3s. So I thought, why not let's do a video, and well, here we are. So first things first, I want to talk about the case. Now my immediate thought and winner goes to the AirPods Pro. The reason for it is that the case is so small in comparison to the Sonys. You can see them here side by side. It's almost as if the Sonys are like the semi-trailer while the Pods Pro are like the Prius. But this is just my own personal preference, and I will say that there are some benefit from the Sony's case. For example, when I open this, I don't get as much anxiety removing the Sonys from the case as opposed to the AirPods Pro. There's something about the design and the sharp edges that makes it less slippery, whereas when I'm using the AirPods Pro, I have to be uber careful taking them out because of their more rounded edges and their more slippery plastic surface. Now, the other thing I will mention is that the Sonys have a USB-C charging port on their case. This is great and super convenient because most of my devices are USB-C now. Though in saying that, the Pods Pro case has wireless charging, and to be honest, if this was not present, then I would probably ditch it because I physically don't have a lightning cable in my house. Now, the Pods Pro also has a single charging pairing LED light on the case. This is, I guess, convenient because it allows me to notify as to when it's charging and when it's not charging, whether it's fully charged or not. And it also gives me a little indicator to see whether it's in pairing mode. Now, on the other hand, the Sony's has one LED light on the case that does similar function. It also has a LED light on each of the Sony earbuds. Now, I don't particularly mind either design, but if you are kind of a person who wants to be mindful about whether the buds are actually charging or in pairing mode without the case being present, then the Sonys will physically let you know of that. So speaking of case design, let's talk about battery specs. Apple says that you can get more than 24 hours of listening time and more than 18 hours of talk time out of a single fully charged case with the pods in them. Now, they also say that 5 minutes of charging pods within the case when they've run out of juice amounts to approximately an hour of talk time or listening time. However, Sony, on the other hand, touts an impressive 32 hours of listening time in total, which is not hard to believe given that fat case, and would be the buds of choice if you're looking for every ounce of battery life you can get. Now, honestly though, I would say that both are more than sufficient for general everyday use. I think I only found once I ran out of battery life completely, and that was on the AirPods, but I did still have juice in the case, and by that point in time I had to give my ears a rest, so I've popped the buds into the case and let them charge for a little bit. By the time I had come back, I was able to kickstart where I had left off. Overall, with the way that earbuds are designed now, I think that once you run out of power on either of these, you can just pop them back into the case, and those fast charging cases will give you enough juice within a short amount of time that you don't need to go searching for a power point. And so either one would be good in terms of battery life, I think. Now, let's move on to earbud design. So we all know what the Apple AirPods look like, but I just have to say that I really dig the shorter stems of the AirPods Pro. Unsurprisingly, they don't look as weird, and the stem design, the fact that it still remains there, leads to theoretically a better performance and pragmatically a better performance when it comes to voice calls. The Sonys definitely have a more inconspicuous look though. In terms of ear tip design, the Sonys opt for the traditional protruded ear tip with the mushroom silicone attachments at the end. Because of this, they tend to protrude deeper in my ear canal, which for me gives me a better seal, but also makes my ears itch a little bit more compared to the AirPods Pro. And it reminds me constantly of the need to wax my ears. The Pods Pro, on the other hand, have this unique non-protruded tip design where the silicone tip attachments do all the protruding, for lack of a better word. I think that this is more convenient for cleaning purposes, but for me, it doesn't create as deep of a seal as the Sonys. Now, the main clincher to all of this that decides the winner, I think, comes really down to the weight. The Pods Pros ends up being lighter at 5.4 grams per earbud, as opposed to the Sonys, which weigh in at a whopping 8.5 grams per bud. Now this translates to more of a solid feel for the Sonys, but ultimately means that when I go for a run or do any intense exercise, they are more prone to falling out. And that's demonstrated, sadly, by the fact that my Sonys have bump and scratches on the earbuds now because they've fallen out when I've been out for a run. When it comes to the AirPods Pro, on the other hand, this has not happened once for me. I think it's because they have that right balance between weight and design and fit. So your mileage may vary, but I gotta give the winner here to the AirPods Pro again when it comes to the design department. So if you're an active type of person, I would consider these over these. Okay, so let's talk about noise cancelling. I am just amazed that both have managed to squeeze active noise cancelling in such tiny form factors. Like, do you remember the days when you used to get wide earbuds with these fat cassette modules that would be attached to one of the cores, and that was the thing that would house the noise cancelling unit? Now we have that inside these with Bluetooth, and I don't know, I find that amazing that we've come so far. Now, I tested these two in terms of noise cancelling whilst in a room. In a separate room, my partner was teaching piano, and in another separate room on the other end of the room that I was in, there was a laundry machine that was running in the background. What I had noticed with this was that the Sonys had a tendency to block out the constant drum of the laundry machine better than the AirPods Pro. Both had, however, difficulties dealing with the sounds from the music lesson. So if I were to pick a winner here, it would have to go to the Sonys, but only just. You would honestly be happy with both for their noise cancelling capabilities, in my opinion. Now, speaking of which, I wanted to talk about ambient sound separately. Both have ambient sound modes which allow you to hear your environment when they are turned on. The AirPods Pro, however, wins in this department, I think, because they have just this incredible ability to pick up voices around you and amplify them, unlike the Sonys, which are a bit hit and miss. The Sonys, however, do have an interesting quick attention mode, and that's when out of the box you can hold down the left earbud, and when you hold it down for a certain amount of time, it reduces the audio playing through both buds and turns on transparency mode so you are able to hear what's going on around you. That's really great for quick snippets in conversation, but I found that when you're trying to have an extended conversation, like for example at the shopping counter at your local groceries, and you're trying to juggle your card and your groceries at the same time whilst talking to the attendant, it's not pragmatic. So I like Apple's because generally the ambient sound mode works really well when it's turned on, but Sony does give you more options for turning on different variants of that mode, and I would say it would be dependent on your user preference as to which one you would prefer for this type of purpose. Okay, so let's talk about microphone quality. Now, I have to say that part of the reason why Apple, I think, does so well with ambient sound mode is due to the inbuilt mics on the AirPods Pro. We have known for ages now that the microphone and call quality out of the original AirPods have been the gold standard for wireless earbuds, and the AirPods Pro in this circumstance are no exception. Whether you're in a quiet room or a noisy place, the microphones of the Pods Pro are outstanding in picking up your voice. Now, in comparison, I have too often needed to put someone on hold as I remove my Sonys to pop them back into the case so I can then use my phone as my primary way of talking to that person on the other hand, because they weren't able to hear me when I was just using the Sony earbuds. So if you are after a reliable way of utilizing your earbuds for voice calls or video chats like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype, then I 100% recommend the AirPods Pro over the Sonys. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about how both of these earbuds function on Android devices. To get things started, pairing was simpler on the Sonys out of the box. A little pop-up window comes up asking if you'd like to pair the first time you open these, and the rest is history. But subsequent ability to connect to the device is not as simple, because if you have connected to an interim device like your computer in between, then when it comes to connecting back to that Android phone that you had originally paired the Sonys to, you have to go through the Bluetooth menu or via NFC. Now, pairing and connecting in between devices on the AirPods Pro just requires you to go through the Bluetooth menu each time. They will automatically connect like the Sonys if the device you are using is the same one as it was last connected to. So both act similarly, except the Sonys are slightly better with initial pairing, and they also have NFC if you can't be bothered to go through Bluetooth menus. Now, Sony app on Android allows you to adjust EQ and change up the touch controls. So this means, for example, that you can have different touch controls for your left and right earbud, but you won't be able to change those control settings within their customizable group. So that's a little bit confusing, but for example, if you want to activate Google Assistant with a long press for the left earbud, but also have playback controls on that same left earbud, you can't do it. You have to have the designated playback controls on one side and then the designated Google Assistant controls on the other side. That's preset by Sony. The AirPods, on the other hand, only allow you to have the default touch controls on Android, which, to be honest, is a little bit better than I expected. So whether you are just touching the stems on either the right or left earbud, the controls will be the same, but at least you have some degree of control there. And that is specifically 1 touch to pause, 2 touches to skip, and hold to switch in and out of transparency mode. Overall, when it comes to using both on Android, I was actually pleasantly surprised to find that the AirPods did not feel that lacking, despite them obviously being made for Apple products. It was definitely usable. However, the Sonys have greater flexibility, allowing you to use it with Google Assistant, all but sacrificing one of the Buds controls to do so. Okay, I had to retake this, but finally, let's talk about sound quality. Straight out of the gate, I will say that the Sony beats the AirPods Pro hands down, and here's why. Now, the first song I used was Taylor Swift's Invisible String. It was one of her new songs in her new album. It was the first test song that I had, mainly because it was a song that I was listening to on my AirPod, on my Spotify last. No judgment. Basically, the song consists of a combination of vocals, acoustic guitar, bass guitar, and light percussion / synth in the background. What stood out the most for me was that when I was using the Sonys, they had more prominent bass, definitely more prominent bass without muddying up the mids, and they still kept that light texture of the highs. Now, I definitely had to move on from that song and take it to the next level, so I did a test using the remastered version of Stravinsky's Firebird by Chicago Symphony. This piece is a completely different beast. It has a chaotic mixture of instruments, textures, pitches from highs to the rumbling lows, and it's insanely challenging for even the best of headphones. Immediate impression was that on the Sonys, there was much more prominent bass. So rumbling timpanis at the opening of the Infernal Dance part of this piece, alongside the lower brass sections throughout, were much more prominent and defined on the Sonys than the AirPods. Sony's also surprisingly resolved more details and sparkle in the highs. So the strings I found sounded more authentic alongside the piccolo and the trumpets. So it made for more of an epic climax in the finale of this piece as opposed to the AirPods Pro. Now, in terms of soundstage, they're not the best, either one. And definitely if you're looking to have an expansive sound through these, they're not for you. But I think you will be hard pressed to find any earbuds that would be able to do that, or earbuds that will be able to do that. Now, the last song I used was Long Road Out of Eden by the Eagles, a classic rock guitar-based American standard. Now, again, the Sonys had more oomph in the kick bass drum and more definition in the bass guitar lines during the instrumental section, three-quarters of the way through, I think, through the piece. In terms of the mids, however, the AirPods did seem to be slightly less muddy in this song. Overall though, as I mentioned previously, sound quality wise, the Sonys wins hands down. It's more enjoyable to listen to. You get that extra emphasis in the lows, and it does so without compromising the mids and highs. So pair it with the fact that you can also use an inbuilt EQ through the app, and it's really the best audiophile choice for wireless Bluetooth earbuds that have noise cancelling in today's market. Okay, so I probably haven't covered everything in this video, but I hope it gives you an idea of what my experience has been using these two devices. Personally, I have to give the overall recommendation to the AirPods Pro. Despite having inferior sound quality and less customizability on Android, I have found that they are just more convenient for me to use, mainly because of one, their smaller size and weight, two, the more reliable ambient sound mode, and three, the awesome microphone quality and the ability to utilize it for calls. It makes it an absolute all-rounder and the one I would recommend for most people who can afford it. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe. Hope to see you guys in the next one.